Hey everybody, welcome to Mystifying Miracles. Today, my story involves a woman who she had always wanted to experience seeing an angel. Well, she finally got that chance, and we're going to go into her story in just a moment, so stay tuned. Okay, so our story today is about a woman named Sally Danley. And her whole life, this woman just found angel stories fascinating. She loved hearing about angels. And she even collected little statues and trinkets and things just for decoration around the home because she loved angels so much. One day, she had a friend over named Marcia. She was kind of just looking through Sally's things. She had a little cabinet that had like a glass display with some little statues of angels here and there. And she asked Sally, "Hey, Sally, I know you love angels, but have you actually ever seen one?" And Sally was like, "No, I haven't, but I've always wanted to." Well, Sally didn't know it then, but she was eventually going to get that chance. Sally had a daughter whose name was Jeannie, and she was a senior in high school. She had been dating this other senior guy, and the two of them been dating, just like teenagers do, and he was handsome and played sports, the whole thing. Well, one day, Jeannie comes up to her mother, and she kind of gives her the shock of her life. And she tells her that she's pregnant. Jeannie kind of thought, oh, this is going to be exciting. She'll love to hear that she's going to be a grandma. So she waited to tell her mom for her 39th birthday, thinking, oh, it'll be joyous. But it actually ended up being the opposite because it shocked Sally so much that all that could go through her head at that moment was like, I spent so many years instilling values and morals, raising my daughter. How could this have happened? So again, it wasn't exactly the joyous gift that Jeannie had intended it to be for her mother. In addition, Jeannie's boyfriend, he was also not happy. He was not ready for marriage, and he told her, I'm definitely not ready to be a father. But Jeannie remained hopeful, thinking, well, he'll come around, and the hope was that before the baby was born, he'd change his mind and they'd be married. However, a couple of months after the both of them graduated, he joined the Marines and left town. Now, the story didn't go into much detail about him other than to say that from this point on, Jeannie would not see or hear from him again for the next 10 years. Obviously, that was a very trying time because Jeannie was so upset. She had loved him and thought that they were going to be together for the rest of their lives. In addition, around that same time, Sally's marriage was also failing. And so Sally was finding herself a single mom now. All the bills rested on her alone. But, she did have a job. It wasn't a great paying job, but at least she had one. And she was able to provide a home for her teenage sons and daughter. She had a son, Patrick, who was a sophomore, Jeannie, of course, who was the senior, and then another son, Scott, who was a junior. 3 teenagers in the house, that's quite a bit. So this baby on the way, that would be another mouth to feed. And Sally, this was very stressful to her. She didn't know how she was going to do it. She could barely do what she was doing now. So she had a talk one day with Jeannie, and she tried to persuade her that she really needed to give this baby up for adoption, and that why don't they make an appointment with one of the agencies and kind of go from there. Well, of course, Jeannie wasn't exactly excited about that, but she could see that, that is another mouth to feed for my mom, and raising a baby's hard on your own. So they made the appointment to have that with the agency. Well, about 1 week prior to that appointment taking place, Sally's coming home from a busy day at work, and Jeannie pulls her aside to sit down and have a chat. She confides in her mom, Sally, that she really feels that God is leading her to keep this baby, not give it up for adoption. This actually was very interesting to Sally. Reason being, earlier that day, Sally got the same message from God that they indeed should not put this baby up for adoption. So this was confirmation. She confided in her daughter, yes, I got that message too. And both women they were joyful. They just hugged and they cried and the tears streamed down their face because of that confirmation on both parts. Now, Sally still did not know how in the world was she going to do it. How would she feed another mouth? But at this point in time, she wasn't worried about it because she had a peace within. So she knew that it's going to be okay. God's going to provide somehow, some way. Give it to him and it's going to be okay. As time went on, both women got excited. They had a great time shopping for the baby, getting clothes, little blankets. And of course, Sally had to shop for a few of those things with at least some of the products with angels on them for the new baby. So it was just a exciting time for the whole family. And on a beautiful October day, baby Shauna was born. It was joyful. There was no fear. And both Sally and Jeannie say there was a peace that day, just filled with happiness. So once Jeannie was settled, rolled back into her room to rest, Sally was able to go back to work that day. She had worked as a secretary for a small laboratory, so she had lots of paperwork, phone calls, and all to catch up on. So she went back and did that. And she remembers taking a break that day and just going outside that afternoon, looking up at the bright blue sky and just having an overwhelming sense of gratitude and thankfulness of how things turned out. And that while things might seem scary and the unknown, there was still a peace. After a few weeks after the baby was born, Jeannie was able to go back to work. She had a little part-time job at a fast food little joint, and so she went back doing that, and she changed her schedule over to nighttime so that her teenage brothers could pitch in, if you will, and help take care of the baby until Sally got home from her job. That went on for a few months until one day Jeannie goes up to her mom, Sally, and she says, I'm moving out. You would think Sally might be glad about that because that'd be a little pressure off of her, paying the bills wise. But it wasn't. She was actually a little bit taken back, and she tried to deter Jeannie from moving out. She thought that wasn't a good idea right now. The plans were already in motion, and Jeannie was already doing it, so there was no stopping her. She wouldn't be too far. She was only 20 minutes away, so that wasn't too bad. 2 months goes by. And Sally gets a call from Jeannie, and Jeannie says, hey, Mom, this Friday, I'm taking a road trip to Oklahoma City. I'm taking Shauna, and I'm going to let her meet the four, great-grandparents. She did know that the drive would be 5 hours long, and that would be the first time the baby would be in a car that long and on a trip. But Jeannie told her mom that, look, I prepared to leave at night. That way, there's less traffic, but also the baby will be sleeping, hopefully, throughout the whole trip. So that'll be easy on me. So Sally tells her, okay, well, yeah, that's a good idea. And she asks Jeannie, she says, well, on y'all's way out of town, do you mind stopping by? I'd like to pray over y'all before you go and just give you a hug and send you on your way. And Jeannie says, yeah, sure. We'll stop by. It'll have to be quick, but we'll be there at 10:15 p.m. Friday comes, and Jeannie pulls up into the driveway at Sally's. Sally comes out. They hug. They chat for a couple minutes. And Sally, before they take off, says a prayer. She places one hand on the vehicle, one hand on her daughter. And Shauna, meanwhile, is in her car seat, fast asleep. So Sally begins to say the prayer. She prays that God would protect them, keep them safe. But not only that, She also prays for God to assign extra angels to her daughter and the baby just for extra protection on their trip there and back. The prayer ends. The women say their goodbyes. Jeannie gets back into her car, backs up, heads on down towards the end of the block. Well, Sally remains outside. She wants to just watch as her daughter drives off safely. And again, as Jeannie's nearing the end of the block, Sally's looking on, and she is stunned by what she is seeing. There in the back seat, she could see through the back window, were two glowing golden beings. Sally had to blink a few times and rub her eyes just to make sure that what she was seeing was actually what she was seeing. But nope, they were still there, bright and glowing and vibrant as ever. And in that moment, Sally says that there was a peace washing over her that was deep and within. And she said she had no worries about her daughter's trip. She knew all was going to be well. So she said she remembers just smiling under her breath as she walked back into her house. And that night, Sally said she slept like a baby. No concern. She fell right to sleep. And I mean, it was a deep, restful sleep. And when she awoke in the morning, she awoke, vibrant, full of peace and joy and not a worry. Sally knew in her heart that all was well and that the girls should be in Oklahoma City by now. And everything was good. And about 8 a.m., her phone rings. She picks it up and it's Jeannie. She just wanted her to know that they had arrived safely and all was well. And before they hung up, Jeannie was hesitant because she really wanted to tell her mom something, but she was probably thinking, I don't want to sound crazy. But she proceeds to tell Sally what her experience was. So the quote I have here, she begins to tell her mother, "Mama, I know this sounds crazy, but I swear it's the truth. Mama, there were two glowing golden angels riding in the back seat all the way there. They never said a word. They were just there. And then they disappeared when I pulled into Granny's driveway." So here we have two people that experienced seeing the same angels. And Sally, she says she couldn't speak. She couldn't say a word back to her daughter because she was just almost like in a state of awe, because this was extra confirmation that what she saw was what she saw. Two angels in her daughter's backseat. That day, both women learned just how real angels are and that they do have assignments and that they do protect us, that the Lord sends them to do so. I just thought this was a really neat story, a really cool one, and I hope you guys did too. Please don't mind the bag. I hope I covered them well. The bags under my eyes. I had a busy weekend. Some family and I went to the Kayla Gabbard Meet Me in the Water in Texas, and it was a beautiful time. People delivered. Miracles happened. It was a long, hot day. We were there till almost 6 p.m. It was so beautiful. I liked how Kayla put it. She got up on stage because there were people passing out. I mean, several ambulances were coming, having to give people IV fluids, take them to the hospital. That's how hot it was. There was just no shade. Kayla said, the flesh is weak, but the spirit is willing. And that is so true. Many got baptized and it was beautiful. If any of you guys are in Texas, I'm even going hoarse, and were there, I want to know what happened. Did you get baptized? Do you know people that were delivered or had miracles occur? Let me know. I love hearing about that. If you don't want to let me know, make sure you let somebody know because the word of our testimonies are powerful. So I had to add that little bit in there since I had just gotten back from that. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. Again, I hope this story blessed you. If nothing else, put a smile on your face. and I am going to see you guys for the next one.